Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the Pemko number 420 AVL. This is an automatic door bottom is what this is. And this automatic door bottom is a somewhat specialty, not only are automatic door bottoms somewhat specialty hardware, but this is a specialty application of an automatic door bottom. Meaning there are three mounting types. There's surface mounted. And those surface-mounted units can be either surface-mounted onto the face of the door, or that same unit, sometimes with a small amount of modification to the hardware package, can be mounted flush to the face of the door. So you still see them, but you can route them so that the body is flush with the face. So there's surface mount, or there's what's called semi-recess, which is a surface mount that's been recessed. There are those that are then mortised up into the bottom of the door. And those are made in two different primary types. There's ones that go into wood doors, or I suppose can be prepped for metal doors as well. But then there are those mortise types that are meant to go into the inverted bottom channel of a steel door, and that's what this one is. The 420 from Pemko is literally meant to go into the inverted bottom channel of a hollow metal door. And this design and the undercut and the inverted bottom channel dimension all need to have a confluence of meeting the dimensional properties that your requirements put on you. And here's what I mean. Typically, an inverted bottom channel is, it could be an inch, it could be 3/4 inch. This unit is showing 13/16 of an inch in the drawing down below this video from the what would really be from the underside of the door to where the aluminum extrusion basically ends is 13/16. Now the overall dimension is about 1 inch. This basically is at 1 inch. So if your inverted bottom channel is somewhere in that 13/16 range, a small amount of the door bottom is going to inherently hang out of the end of the channel, which you would never see. The drop on this unit is 1/2 of an inch. So when you consider that you've got from the bottom of your channel down to the bottom of the unit, it's going to be about 1 inch. That item can drop up to an additional 1/2 inch. And then figuring what space is left in your undercut, have you installed a threshold or what's the sill condition, this may work out perfectly for you in those scenarios where your project is called for automatic door bottoms and you've got hollow metal doors. Nice, concealed, neat way to seal off those doors. So, what are the variables? Well, that 1 inch overall, that's fixed. That bottom channel of yours is fixed, that depth, if you put a ruler inside there and measured that. The height of the threshold that you add is a variable. And then, of course, the amount of drop that you ask the unit to handle is the variable. So if you can tailor all those, you might be able to make all that work. Now, we talked about the different types of automatic door bottoms, but really, what are they and what do they do? Well, an automatic door bottom does exactly what its name implies. It automatically seals the bottom of the door. When the door is in the closed position, the unit is activated and the seal is dropped. When the door is in the open position, the unit is deactivated and the unit, the drop mechanism of the unit, or the sealing portion of it, is tucked back up into the housing. Okay? So, all of the automatic door bottoms have a similar sort of principle where there's an actuating mechanism. This bolt that you see here, that's sticking out of the edge, well, that's tied to a rod. And if I turn that clockwise, I'm going to tighten or draw the bolt in, and I can literally run that bolt all the way into the housing. Or I can continue to turn it counterclockwise and draw it out further. The amount of projection of that bolt from the housing is directly related to the quantity of drop. So the more that bolt is pushed in, meaning how much further out is it sticking, the more drop you're going to get in. So when I push that bolt in, sorry, my finger was compressing the unit a bit. And plus when I hold it on my hand, I'm constricting it. So you can see how it drops. And this is a 4-foot piece, so seeing it on the camera is a bit more of a challenge. But what you'll notice is that it doesn't drop evenly. Well, that's normal. That's by design. So that unit immediately starts to come down as I push that. Imagine when this is installed, this is always the hinge edge of the door where the bolt is. The other end does not have a bolt. Okay, just the vinyl, and that's the V in the part number, by the way. Let's dissect the part number. The 420 is the profile of the item. The A is the fact that it's all in mill aluminum finish, and that'll be the only color that you get this in because it's concealed. And the V is the vinyl insert that's here. I don't actually know what the L means in the part number. I think the L in the part number may refer to the fact that when it's listed in the price list that it's in a length, a specific length. This is, being 48 inches, a 420 AVL 48. L48, I think, is what that refers to. Anyway, the other end does not feature that drop bar. This is always the lock side. It's an inverted style, so it's going to mount. You're going to take your door down, and you're going to not only get the door bottom mounted inside of the channel, drill the holes and screw it, but you obviously have to first drill a hole in the heel edge of the door, or the hinge side of the door, for the drop bolt to stick out, to project out. Well, that sticks out of the edge of the door. That is going to always be sticking out until it makes contact with the jamb from the closing cycle of the door. This will close, this will make contact with the jamb and will have nowhere to go but in. That's connected to a flat spring that forces the bottom to drop. Now, the reason it drops down unevenly is because that's what you want it to do. You want it to drop unevenly, and here's why. Your door is closing. The door is closing, closing, closing. The bolt starts to make contact with the jamb. It gets compressed. This immediately starts to drop down, but over here, your door is still ajar slightly. So as this item, as the bolt makes contact and the hinge edge of the door bottom drops, as the door continues to close, you want the rest of it to drop down as well. So it will drop, it'll make contact with the sill, and then knife down. You don't want the leading edge of the door bottom making contact because you're going to be dragging it across the floor, certainly wearing it out, wearing the floor out, and damaging the components. So you want it to drop down unevenly. It does that by design. People call and say, hey, it's defective. No, let's go through the exercise. Let's think about it if it dropped at the other end, which is why the drop end always starts on the hinge side. There are automatic door bottoms that drop evenly, certainly for sliding doors, those that exist for sliding doors, they want those to drop evenly so that as the bolt makes contact with the jamb, as the door makes its final 1/2 inch of close, that needs to go from no drop to full drop by the time the door gets to the closed position. So if you observe that behavior, do know that it's standard behavior. So if I were to turn this bolt in further, you can tell there's less distance for me to compress it, so it's not going to drop as far. Okay, so when you get this installed into your door, and what I would suggest if I were you, I would get the inside, I'd lay my door down on sawhorses and get the inside dimension and measure that inside cavity, and I would order these exactly that length. This person ordered 48 inch for 4-foot doors. This person, there's 23 of them on this order. All of them are going to have to be cut because they just couldn't take time to measure those. Because if it's a 4-foot hollow metal door, that door is 41 3/4, 41 13/16. Well, the inside clear opening of the inverted bottom channel is certainly going to be closer to 43 9/16 or 5/8 because you've got steel that's in there. By all means, order the next longest piece and indicate in the comment field the net length you want these made to, and that's what we'll send them to. I see no reason in cutting these down, and if you were to cut them down, you would only cut them down on the lock side, which is the side without the bolt, is how you would do that. And you can certainly cut them, and you might say to yourself, I'm going to cut them in the field because I can't get to the job site. Certainly, you can do that. However, the factory's cutting them from long pieces anyway. Might as well just let them cut them to the proper length. Now, the 420 is available in different insert material. This is the V for vinyl, the least desirable of all because it is the least in terms of performance. Vinyl will fatigue with exposure to ultraviolet and extreme temperatures. It's quite poor in. The alternatives for the 420, you can get this in a silicone, which would be a great choice for extreme temperatures, either hot or cold. You can also get this in what they call their PK, their Pemko, which would be which is certainly a synthetic rubber. So if you have an extremely hot or cold condition, opt for silicone. Otherwise, use Pemko. And if cost is the most important factor, go with the vinyl. Okay, you'll always get this in black, this vinyl material, and it is concealed. Very easy. Okay. Now, this will include a package of fasteners. Because this is intended for a hollow metal jam, you're not going to get a plate. You really can't see those. You're not going to get a plate for the jam so that when the drop bolt makes contact with the jam, you're not going to gouge it out. However, they do include a very short, like a number 12 screw, or maybe 10. That's intended to be put into the frame so that every time the bolt makes contact with the jam, you're not creating a divot. Certainly if it's a wood frame, you'll want to install that. A steel frame, you may not care so much about putting that there. However, I would install it if possible. You don't want damage to that frame over time. This will include installation instructions from the factory, where they do give you the location on how to drill that hole for proper installation. It does say that the 420 requires a 3/8 diameter hole drilled through the hinge edge of the hollow metal door at the location shown above. And this is linked below this video so you can review that. Cut the automatic door bottom to a 1/16 of an inch less than the door width without cutting the gasket material. Measure door width from center of bottom rail to compensate for possible beveled edges. Make sure that the drop bar is flush with the case on the plunger hole. Do not trim the gasket yet. So, inside cavity, they're saying measure from, if your door is beveled, be mindful of the fact that if your tape measures towards the top of the door laying in front of you, it will give you a different dimension than the bottom. You'll want to probably take the small dimension, deduct a 1/16 of an inch from that. And the vinyl will come, or the insert will come long, so you can get in there with a knife and tailor that installation. Regarding the bolt, you obviously don't want this turned in any further so that it falls inside the hole. This needs to be sticking out of the edge of the door, or at least flush. I would let it stick out a 1/16 of an inch, because there's hopefully an 1/8 of an inch or 3/32 of an inch margin between the edge of your door and your jam. This, having it stick out a 1/16 of an inch will ensure that it does not fall inside the hole and become stuck in the dropped position. I would certainly like to I would certainly like to that hole, that 3/8 of an inch hole that they say in the edge of the door, I would like to drill a hole maybe slightly less, so that the hexagonal shape of the edge of the bolt, I could then go in with a file and create flat sides to that if I really wanted to prevent any rotation on that bolt over time, because it will happen with time that bolt will rotate, and you'll eventually have a door that's not behaving as properly as it should. So you might consider filing the ends of that slightly just to prevent it from turning. If you order door bottoms, they can be cut down, provided that you're not cutting them down, and I don't see it indicated here, but my guess is 2-inch. 26-inch and over should not be cut down more than 2-inch. Okay, it states it right there. 24-inch, less than 24-inch, can only be cut down by 1/2 of an inch. It'd be unusual to have them that small, but you certainly could. I've sold, jobs in the past where there were pairs of 2-foot doors or 1-foot 10 doors. And then, warning, you only cut them from the non-plunger side, which would be the lock side. You want to adjust and trim the gasketing so that it makes full contact when the unit is in the dropped position. That drop bar doesn't just drop like this. It actually moves a little bit towards the lock side. So you'll certainly want to leave the hinge piece a little bit longer than necessary, but so that it still operates correctly. They do state that the underside of the automatic door bottom should be flush with the bottom of the door. That is a reference to the metal channel, or the aluminum channel. And once you get that cut to place, measured, pre-drilled the holes for the screws, those screws are here, you'll install this and rehang your door. Once you get this material, the vinyl, trimmed, let that stick out a little bit, then test it. Make a little bit of contact with the jamb and get down and observe how far this drops. And then continue to turn that counterclockwise to draw the bolt out so that it makes complete contact with the floor, but not undue pressure. You don't want force. You just want it making contact, because as soon as you start to open the door, you want the bolt to go back in, which it will, but you want the flat spring to immediately release that tension and let the bottom, the drop bar mechanism, snap back up into the housing. Okay, because if it's not, you'll drag it across the floor, and this portion inside of here is not this portion that I'm tugging on with my finger. That's not meant to be dragged across the floor naturally. You don't want to damage anything. A very effective means to seal the bottom of the door. A lot of people like them because they're concealed. I like them because they're very long lasting. Your seal material is really not dragging across the floor, it's just making contact. So there's no friction, there's no abrasion that's happening. So that material, your insert, should last a long time in that sort of scenario. Now there's a link below this video not only to the installation instructions, but also to a document called handing. And that handing is really not necessary for this automatic door bottom. It can, you're right, it can be installed either hand right out of the box. We do simply like to know the hand of hardware when it's going on doors. It helps us coordinate if there are other items on the door to simply help eliminate the possibility that there's an error. If you don't know the hand of the door, or you don't care to know the hand of the door, select anything, because it doesn't matter on this piece of hardware. But we do like to know it, so that's why I choose to leave it there as a selection you have to make. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Pemko products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog, where you can find the 420 and all of its sister products in terms of automatic door bottoms. Okay, if there's one complaint against automatic door bottoms that I have had made maybe twice in my career, is that they're loud. People can hear as you open the door and the bottom snaps back up into the housing. People do notice that clanking sound. Really the only people that install these are people that are putting them into applications that would be quite unusual for an automatic door bottom. Your bedroom door. I've sold this to people who want to deaden sound in a bedroom door application. And I could certainly understand why you would want to do that. However, there is still metal making contact with metal as it snaps back up, so there is a measurable sound that's there. So be mindful of that. If there was one complaint about an automatic door bottom, I would argue that there's lots of items to consider them as an advantage. In a condition like an automatic door bottom for an inverted bottom channel, where you could really squeeze a very unique solution out of it, is you've got a door that swings out. You know that concrete pitches up in a way, and you've put surface mounted door bottoms, you've put surface mounted door sweeps on the door, and you get to 50-degree open, and now you can't push it open anymore because the door bottom is being folded over because the concrete sweeps up so much. and you get to 90-degree open, and the door will open, but the door almost starts to make contact with the floor. So imagine that sloped floor. This, because it's tucked back up into the housing, does not have to contend with hanging off the door in a fixed position all the time. So you can use an automatic door bottom for that scenario where you have an irregular floor condition. So a more common application for an automatic door bottom in that scenario would be the front door of your home, either mortised or surface mounted or semi-recessed, and you would like to put a rug behind your door so that when people come in, they can wipe their feet. Okay? A door sweep is going to hit that rug. An automatic door bottom is not. Or in my scenario where your children come home and take their shoes off and leave them behind the door, well then mom and dad come home and push the door open and hits the shoe and then destroys the door bottom. An automatic door bottom is not going to fail from that sort of obstacle that they have to overcome. So keep that in mind as a reason as well. I think they're smart too because of that purpose. I'm partial to Pemko, and it's because they're a really good company with really good products, a broad spectrum of available weather stripping items, good people that really want to do a good job for you, and they do that all the time. Any questions on the Pemko? This is their part number 420, AV, or in this case AVL 48, or any other Pemko product. Please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.